Thank you, Luis. Yeah, so as Luis said, I'm currently a fellow working in different organizations over the course of a year, and on the project of that I chose myself, and as my topic, I chose the proposal in Parliament. So hence, that will be what I want to focus on in my short comments here. What I'm going to try to do, I'm not going to try to give you many insights myself. I don't think I can provide that many at this stage of my career yet, but I'm more going to try to connect the different presentations and maybe give us a bit of food for thought and engage the speakers with each other, but also with the audience. And also given the time of the day and the jet lag of some, I'm going to be short and hopefully provocative to keep you all awake. So maybe just first briefly a comment from my own work, because I'm currently working at the European Parliament, and the European Parliament came up as an example several times today. It was referred to as a role model for the development of a UN Parliament and as an example of how it could work in the future. And I just felt that even though we haven't gone into the details of the European Parliament, still the image of it was slightly stylized, maybe idealized at times. Even though, of course, the European Parliament has problems as well in terms of democratic legitimacy. You only need to look at the issues of intransparency in the trilogues and the so-called trilogues between the Council, the Commission, and the Parliament when it comes to developing European law. When you look at the nationalism that is involved in the personnel politics, for example, within the European Parliament. When you look at the influence of lobbies on policies such as glyphosate, eco-lamps, TTIP, etc. So that just as a side note, maybe from my own work and from my experience with the European Parliament. Then connected to that, I guess, is what Andreas and James started out with in their presentation when they first and foremost referred to the EP as a primary example of transnational democracy. James, I think you said earlier, if the EP can do it, why can't the UNPA do it? Andreas, you said the UNPA could play a similar role in global governance that the EP played in the EU. I was just wondering, and again, my role here is to give comments and to provoke a discussion. So doesn't this analogy between Europe and the world break down in the sense that not all countries, of course, in the world, as was highlighted several times tonight, are democracies? There are large and influential non-democracies. Now, I know that the usual response of the campaign, and as we know from Professor Barada, the historical response to this is that there is some sort of democratic spirit that could come from the Democrats within such a union that would then infect, so to say, the non-Democrats as well. But again, if we look at the empirical evidence, at the practical politics of it, does this really happen? Does this really happen in the Pan-African Parliament, for example? Does it happen in the Parliamentary Assembly of the Union for the Mediterranean, which exists? It doesn't seem like it. So why then would that happen in a UN Parliamentary Assembly? Then of course Chris Hamer chimed in on this and came with a different proposal altogether, which was to unite democracies to get to a world parliament and a world federation in the end. So this starting point seems fundamentally different because the question, of course, is should we begin with democracy as a fundamental principle or universality? Then Richard and Andreas seemed quite critical of this. Richard called this, if I remember right, a threat to the rest of the world. On the other hand, Chris then said that he's actually quite happy with the UNPA campaign and his organization supports the UNPA campaign as well. So I'd just like to push this controversy a bit further and see if there's any room for compromise, if these two approaches can coexist, given that, after all, the goal of both of your approaches are the same. And then, of course, we learned from Professor Barada that the very same controversy between democracy and universality as the starting principle, as the starting point, has a long history in the World Federalist movement. And so maybe I was wondering if Professor Barada could tell us a bit more about how this historical conflict within the movement has panned out, and also what we today can learn from this. So yeah, I look forward to our discussion now and later over dinner and drinks.